Well, this phone. I honestly didn't think I'd ever buy this, but real happy I got it here. Hey there people, how you doing? So, today we're gonna take a look at a very interesting device. It's got a very unique feature, to say the least, and it is the Vivo X50 Pro. And no, it is not a flagship, it is a mid-ranger. I know I typically don't review mid-rangers so much, but, well, this one, it's got like one of the best tricks up its sleeve that I've seen so far. But of course, before we talk about that new trick it's got, let's unbox it. So we have this quite a nice looking box, and opening it up, which mind you is pretty tight, we're greeted by the phone. As tradition follows, we will set it aside and check out what else is inside. Diving in deeper, we get the case. It's a very clear, soft plastic case, a typical case that we get with almost any other phone out there. But up next is what I would consider to be at least like the second most interesting thing to come out of that box, right after the phone. It's the earbuds. You ask? Well, these earbuds have a headphone jack, which could only mean that the phone has an headphone jack as well. But why is it interesting? I'll let you guys know in a few moments. We also have the typical set of instructions and manuals. Along with that, we also get the SIM ejector tool, which is actually covered by a plastic for some reason. And while ripping off that plastic, pops that SIM ejector tool right off. Next up, we have the charging cable. It's a pretty thick charging cable, good one. It's USB Type A to Type C, so nothing new there. And then, finally, we have our good old charging brick. And it's, I believe, 33 watt. If I'm wrong, I'll just display the number up there. But yeah, it's supposedly a pretty good charging brick. And so, clearing up the table, we get a very good view of all the important stuff that we get. And yes, I'm pretty sure you can see the earbuds in there as well, which, once again, have a headphone jack. I'll tell you, don't worry, it's interesting, I'll tell you. But of course, before that, we're gonna rip off that plastic. And you can see, in its full glory, the phone looks absolutely gorgeous. It's got a very beautiful matte finish. And, well, you know me, I am one hell of a sucker for a matte finish. And, of course, it's also got a lot more shine, I'd say. It's a lot more metallic than even the OnePlus 8 Pro, which, by the way, has one of the best matte finishes that I've seen. And I'm pretty sure you've spotted the cameras as well, which kinda suspiciously remind me of the S20 Ultra. Although not as big, it's a lot more elegant, I'd say, but it does look very similar to the S20 Ultra. Okay, I guess I've made you guys wait enough. Let's talk about that headphone jack situation because, well, for whatever reason, here, I'll show you a clip where I'm trying to search for the headphone jack all around. It's not there. It's just not there. I don't understand why we have a phone which has headphone jack capable earbuds, even though the phone or the device itself doesn't have a headphone jack. I'm kind of bamboozled here. I don't understand why such a thing even happened. I mean, USB Type-C earbuds exist. I have a few lying around. And yeah, it's not like I care about the presence of a headphone jack, but anyways, there is also another thing I noticed. Now these are like absolute first impressions, but not a good one here, because you see this gorgeous looking matte finish here? Yeah, I used it for a little while, set up the phone and started using it a little. That's when I saw this, a bit of a problem. It would appear that the matte finish is not as smudge or fingerprint resistant as anyone would think it is. it appears that the matte finish on the Vivo X50 Pro is, for whatever reason, very prone to smudges. I mean, just take a look at this clip here. It's pretty insane if you ask me. I mean, it's not like it's a glossy phone, so I'd expect a little bit better performance in terms of smudge resistance, but it appears not so much. And yes, I realized that I was kind of overly hyped about the matte finish on this phone, but I really didn't think I'd get this poor of a result in terms of smudge and fingerprint resistance from this matte finish. Well, I guess not all matte finishes are created equally, huh? I guess that's proof right here. I mean, even now it's got a ton of smudges. It's really something. Alright, look, I can't wait any longer. Let's talk about these cameras, which, by the way, unlike the design, are through and through impressive. Because you see that huge camera module right there? That is where the gimbal is. And yeah, I know it's not a real gimbal. It's not like it's got some kind of a 3-axis motor stabilization. That's not what it is. It's actually, you could say, a very overpowered system of OIS. Really, just the amount of mechanical stabilization that you can get out of this one, it's really not something that you expect from a typical smartphone, that too a mid-ranger. Now, I'm not exactly sure about the resolutions yet. I'll just put it up on the screen for you guys. I mean, this camera system is pretty much covering all the basics of what you'd expect even from a flagship. I mean, take the S20 Ultra for example. That thing also has this similar setup, but it doesn't have a gimbal camera. Sure, you could say it has a huge 108 megapixel sensor, but it's still, I don't think any phone out there can compete with the sheer amount of stabilization that we can get. And obviously, we will be running number of tests and a lot of comparisons are gonna come, so stay tuned for that. Now, of course, this phone is not a flagship. It's a typical mid-ranger, if we might even call it that, because this thing has a Snapdragon 765G. And yes, it is 5G, but it's still a lower power chipset than the 800 series that we have in all the flagships right now. So it'll be very interesting to see how this camera compares to all the big flagships out there. And well, I honestly can't wait for the comparisons to come out. But of course, this phone is not all about cameras. It's also got a really good display. I mean, it's a 1080p, so not the sharpest, but sharp enough. 90Hz, not the smoothest 120, but definitely smooth enough, especially for the price. And finally, it's also AMOLED, so definitely a really good, high quality display. It's not flagship level, but I'd say it's firmly a good display overall. It's also a punch out, so say it looks modern enough as well. Now, of course, there are shortcomings here and there. We don't have wireless charging. We have a mono speaker, which kind of bothers me a little. But look, it's fine. I kind of get it because the camera, I feel, is kind of overpowered for a mid-ranger. I mean, they could have just gone for a normal camera system and I think no one would have exactly complained. But the fact that we have such a bleeding edge camera system here with the gimbal and whatnot, I'd say we have a really good phone on our hands. Because look, in all honesty, the gimbal camera here, it might even make the S20 go for a run for its money. And yeah, the comparisons are gonna be super interesting. Alright then, I guess that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, do hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will be seeing you guys later. Cheers.